Okay. For anyone who just joined, welcome to the Public Landscaper Workgroup meeting for small off-road engines. I'm again Navashni Mitchell. I go by Ash, an air pollution specialist at the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. I'm joined today by several of my colleagues, Manisha Singh, Chief of the Quality Management Branch, Christopher Dilbeck, Manager of the Testing and Certification Section, who is my supervisor, Jenna Ostad, Matthew Holmes, Catherine Garrison, Michelle Dunlop, and Jordan Odom, who are in the Testing and Certification section, and Todd Sterling and Joshua Simmons from the Mobile Source Control Division. Please feel free to put questions in the chat. We will answer questions from the chat and call on those with raised hands after the presentation. Next slide. Before we begin, let's have a quick recap from our previous meeting. We have received 4 nominations from businesses to serve on the panel of landscapers and have confirmed with those businesses that they are willing to serve on the panel. Some of those panelists shared in previous meetings. Our panelists will participate in today's meeting by participating in our QA session. We are still accepting nominations. Sorry, let me try this again. I'm just checking the interpretation. So the interpretation is turned on. You have to go to the interpretation, the globe icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen to select Spanish. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. We are still accepting nominations. You can review our presentations from previous meetings on what we envision for the panel. We encourage landscapers to let their legislators know that they want more funding from the legislature. We received a question regarding incentives for larger businesses. These are available in some air districts through the Carl Moyer program. Representatives from air districts are here today and can speak to their air districts programs. We have received some questions about electrical infrastructure and the potential need for upgrades to electrical service. A strategy to reduce the need for additional electrical circuits is the use of smart charging switches. Multiple chargers can be plugged in these devices, and one can cycle through charging several batteries unattended, with charging stretched out over a course of time. We have also invited utility companies to speak on transitioning to electric. Existing equipment may be used and repaired indefinitely. The rules affect manufacturers of new engines. Engines that are manufactured for sale, sold, or offered for sale in California, or that are introduced, delivered, or imported into California for introduction into commerce must be labeled and certified to the applicable emission standards and requirements for the model year of the engine. We received a request to increase the meeting time to 90 minutes and have accommodated that request. For those questions in the chat that we didn't answer during the previous meeting, we sent email responses to the registration email. As a reminder, this work group meets 4 times a year. Jenna will start us off by discussing the rules for landscape equipment.
Thanks, Ash. So small off-road engines, or SOAR, are spark ignition engines with rated power at or below 19 kilowatts or 25 horsepower used in non-stationary equipment. SOAR are primarily used in landscaping equipment, including lawnmowers, leaf blowers, trimmers, and small chainsaws. Other small off-road equipment, such as portable generators and specialty vehicles, are often powered by SOAR. All diesel and stationary equipment are not part of the SOAR category. The SOAR rules apply to manufacturers producing new engines which need certification in order to be sold in California. The rules do not have requirements for equipment owners, so equipment can continue to be used and repaired, and certified equipment in stores may continue to be sold. The updates to the rules became effective January 1st, 2023, and newly produced engines are subject to emission standards of 0 in 2 phases. Starting with model year 2024, most new engines are subject to emission standards of 0. New pressure washers with engine displacement greater than or equal to 225 cc and portable generators are subject to more stringent emission standards. Starting in model year 2028, all SOAR, including pressure washers and generators, are subject to emission standards of 0. Some manufacturers may have the flexibility to certify some engines through model year 2032 through the use of credits. As long as they're available, equipment owners may continue to purchase certified engines offered in stores. The Promoting Reduction of Emissions Through Landscaping Equipment Act proposed a federal tax credit for a 40% credit on the purchase of zero-emission equipment and accessories up to $25,000 per year and up to $100,000 over the course of 10 consecutive years. There has been no new development on this bill. And then also the Commercial Clean Vehicle Credit is part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Here, commercial lawnmowers may qualify as mobile machinery. And I'll kick it back over to Ash.
Thank you, Jenna. We have asked landscapers on the panel of landscapers to share their experience with Z and incentive programs, and Z being zero emission equipment. We have Leslie Macias here, equipment manager with Mission Landscape, here today to speak. And let me find you, Leslie. And I am not seeing Leslie logged in. Maybe we can go to the next slide. In the meantime. Okay, I'm gonna hand this over to Catherine for the slide.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to thank Pacific Gas and Electric and San Diego Gas and Electric and Southern California Edison for joining us tonight. So we have Andrew. If you want to wave, Andrew, and we also have Tim. Tim, are you able to wave? And then we have. Oh, yeah. Then we have. Sorry, I wanted to say Josh. We have representative from PG&E. So Tim, excuse me, it's not Tim. Our representative from Southern California Edison's gonna kick it off with a few slides to talk about that electrification process. They're gonna talk about the fleets as well as your battery electric landscaping equipment. Thank you. Take it over, please.
Thanks so much, Catherine. Let me get the slides going. I think Tim is going to pull these up for us.
Yep. He should be there. Can you guys see him now?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. I can. All right. So thank you for that introduction. So I work, Jason Groves here. I work here at Southern California Edison on our Charge Ready Transport program, which is a vehicle electrification program. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what we do in the program and how we can potentially support you in your electrification efforts. So the first thing I want to say is that this program called Charge Ready Transport, the other utilities who will also have a chance to speak have similar programs, so SDG&E and PG&E. So what I'm about to tell you about, the other two major California utilities have something similar to this. And what we can potentially do is pay for a lot of the infrastructure that's required when you need to electrify a medium or heavy duty fleet. And so this isn't going to apply to the landscape specific equipment, but what it will apply to is if you have a fleet of trucks that you're using for landscaping, it could apply to that. And so this program would support an electric fleet deployment of 2 or more trucks at any given site, and that's the minimum number requirement. The other requirements would be the vehicles need to be fully electric that you plan to deploy, and over 6,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating. And so if you think about kind of what that means in terms of the type of vehicles, you could really, within this program, electrify anything from, for example, a Ford F-150 Lightning pickup truck, which is fully electric, all the way up to really big trucks and buses. But I imagine for a lot of the individuals in this group, we're thinking about like pickup trucks and utility van type applications. Next slide, please. Great. So because we're talking about a program that supports charging, it's important to say that we support all different types of charging. So anything from your more standard level 2 charging, which tends to be the type of charger that can charge a pickup truck, for instance, overnight, all the way up to very high powered DC fast chargers. And so if you decided to use this program, one of the big requirements, aside from the need to electrify 2 or more vehicles, is that you need to pick a charger that's on our approved list. And those are chargers that have been approved for safety. There's a link below to EPRI, which has that approved charger list on it. So you would just want to make sure that you pick a charger from that list, but there's a lot of different options there. So there's really something for everyone in terms of approved chargers. Next slide, please. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is you're probably wondering, well, what exactly are you paying for? Like, what would Edison and the utilities cover as part of this project? And so this diagram is meant to reflect that. So anything in green is what we can potentially cover. So to the left of that dotted line represents infrastructure that's on Edison's side of your meter. So we would do things like upgrading the transformer if we needed to, and putting in a new electric meter. And then to the right of that dotted line represents infrastructure at your facility. So we would do things like putting in a new electrical panel, trenching through your parking lot, laying the conduit. We would do all of this work, including project management, construction, pulling the permits, doing the engineering drawings. All of that work we would do for you. And then at the end of those green lines, what you're left with is what we typically refer to as a make ready or a stub out. And that is essentially going to be a tube with wires coming out of the ground that are energized and ready to connect to the charging station. Your responsibility as the customer would be to purchase those charging stations off of that approved list that I mentioned and hire a third-party electrical contractor to connect those stations to that make ready that I discussed. And with that, I'll hand it over to Andrew at SDG&E.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Appreciate the introduction. My name is Andrew, and I work at San Diego Gas and Electric under the Clean Transportation team. So today I will be going over electrification timelines for getting energized with the utility using SDG&E's Power Your Drive for Fleets program as the example. The program aims to streamline the process for fleet owners to electrify their sites and utilize EV charging infrastructure. The process involves 5 key stages, which I will outline now. The first step is to submit your interest. In this initial phase, fleet owners express their interest in the program, which gets them in contact with the utility. The next phase is preliminary design and engineering. During the stage, SDG&E, in this example, conducts a physical inspection of your site through a site walk. Following the site walk, we will create a detailed design package that outlines the proposed infrastructure. Moving on to the construct infrastructure phase, fleet owners have two options. They can either construct and pay for the charging infrastructure themselves, assuming an 80% rebate or up to 80% rebate, or they can work with SDG&E to manage this process and coin the construction. The fourth step is to activate your site. In this phase, SDG&E will inspect the installed equipment and ensure it meets all necessary service standards and requirements. Once the inspection is successfully completed, SDG&E will energize the equipment, making the charging stations operational. The final stage is closeout and maintenance. After activation, the chargers will need to be maintained throughout the duration of the program. This can either be managed by the utility or the customer, depending on the option the customer chooses. In summary, the entire process from submitting interest to final closeout can take anywhere from 12 to 24 months. I do realize the screen might show 11 to 16 months, but being in this day-to-day, I do see it takes typically anywhere from 12 to 24 months. The idea about this timeline is that it provides a structured approach to ensure that all aspects of electrification are carefully planned, constructed, and maintained. And with that, I'll pass it over to Tim with PG&E.
Thank you, Andrew and Jason. Appreciate that. One thing I wanted to point out is that all three utility programs are very similar. In fact, that's why we were trying to have Jason tell you what qualifies. Andrew told you what the timeline was, and then I'm going to cover rebates and incentives, and all of these are very similar as far as going into this. But just to reiterate a couple things about what Jason said as far as the separation of the circuit, whenever the utilities, especially in this case, PG&E, looks at your charging infrastructure, we break it into three sections. So the first section there on the left in green is called TTM. That stands for to the meter. This is all PG&E equipment, as Jason pointed out. This includes your distribution line running down the front of the property, your service drop, your transformer sitting there with the three insulators. And then TTM includes the trenching, conduit, and conductor from the transformer over to your new meter panel. Again, that's all PG&E. Incentive-wise, when a customer typically asks a utility to come out and upgrade the transformer and trench on site, we typically have to charge you. One of the big incentives about these programs within the utilities is we cover all of those costs free of charge. That's a significant amount of savings to the customer just getting that in itself. So the second part of the charging infrastructure there in blue is called BTM. That stands for behind the meter. Now, this is the customer's responsibility. This is what you would install. You would have a contractor install that meter panel. A little different than what SoCal Edison's program is we have the customer do this, and then we're going to pay you a BTM incentive to help pay you, which pays for the contractor, your contractor, to do this. That BTM incentive is calculated using the box in the lower right-hand corner. Basically, for medium-duty vehicles is what's been pointed out, say a F-150 Lightning or a Chevy Silverado or a E-Transit van, a medium-type duty vehicle, you would get about $4,000 per BTM credit for every vehicle you're going to install over your 5-year period. So if you were going to put in one vehicle every year for the next 5 years through the end of 2028, that's 5 vehicles times $4,000 is $20,000. So we would send you a BTM incentive check of $20,000 to help you pay your contractor to set that, we'll call it a 400 amp meter panel, and trench over to those 5 charging stations. That's the second incentive. Now, the third and final incentive is called a charger rebate. And that, it goes to all schools and all transit agencies, which I know you're not, but then it's any other customer that's inside of a disadvantaged community. And that's identified by the state of California. And when you talk to your utilities, we'll be able to identify if you're in a DAC, disadvantaged community, or if you're not. But if you are, then you qualify for a charger rebate. The charger rebate will pay for 50% your purchase price of your charging station, up to these amounts in the upper right-hand corner. So that's how the incentives work. 3 different sets. It's really important. Now, we talked about all the different programs, but with this program, I want to make sure you see that if you're in PG&E's area, or if you pay a PG&E electric bill, you're going to be going through the EV fleet program, and you could use that link right here. If you're in SDG&E's area, you're going to be going through the Power Your Drive for Fleets program, and that's going to go through this web link here. And if you're in SoCal Edison's area, you're going to go through the Charge Ready Transport program, and that link is there. Again, these programs are only temporary. They're not the normal route you'll be going through. They're just something that the California Public Utilities Commission has put into place to help customers put in charging infrastructure when they're going to be putting into service medium and heavy duty electric vehicles. Now, we know that this webinar is primarily focused on small engines, converting blowers and trimmers to battery operated. So we didn't want to leave you high and dry. We want to make sure that you do have the resources, that if you're going to be installing a lot of these electric chargers, smaller ones, not the medium duty vehicle ones, you might need to get a service upgrade from the utility. If you need to upgrade your meter panel to from a 200 amp to maybe a 400 amp because you're adding all these charging stations, in that case, this slide right here is going to tell you how to get a hold of the utilities, what we call service planning department. It's for your customer service for upgrading your meter panel. So those are the numbers there that you would call if you were just looking to upgrade your panel for some small blower equipment versus the medium duty. With that, I think we have maybe just a couple minutes where we're going to open it up to any questions that have come in. And I don't know if Catherine or if Ash, if you guys are going to read out any questions. If so, let us know. And Jason, myself, and Andrew are more than happy to answer those.
Thank you so much, Tim, Jason, and Andrew. Really appreciate you guys coming here. And so to get this right, if you have the landscaping equipment and you have questions about needing bigger capacity on your panel, then the slide right here you're showing is the contact information they need.
That's correct.
Oh, that's so good to know. Ash, what do you think about this electrification?
I like it. Did we still want to do the QA?
I don't know if any questions came in, but if they did, we're happy to answer them.
I'm looking through to see if there's any raised hands. And I don't see any raised hands. Let me look through the chat.
I don't see any chat questions.
Okay. Well, the good news is I think we can wrap up by saying I'm going to go back one slide and say, if as a landscape company, you are going to be purchasing medium duty trucks to start transporting your equipment, definitely get a hold of which utility you're in and submit an interest form, which is what Andrew pointed out. And then we can help you identify what programs you will help you install the charging infrastructure for which utility area that you're in.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Of course.
So maybe we will start sharing screen again. Okay, and I don't see any questions coming. So maybe we'll move on. And I have a poll question. So next slide, please, thank you. So everyone, this is going to be just a short poll that will show the audience composition. And after that, we will take our 5-minute break. So let me launch the poll. And if everybody could answer this poll question, and I'll give you guys like a minute to answer this. Okay, I'll just give it a few more seconds. Okay, can I close the poll in like maybe 20 seconds? Okay, so I guess I'm going to end the poll now, and I'm going to share the results. So you guys can see the results from the poll. I'm just going to leave it up for like maybe 20 seconds so folks can see what's the audience composition. Are folks able to see the poll results?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I am going to stop sharing the poll now. Before I do that, let me do this. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now. And next slide, please. And we're going to take a 5-minute break. It is 6:03 right now. So we will come back in 5 minutes. 6:08. When the music stops, please be back. We'll stop playing the music in 5 minutes. Okay, everybody, it's been 5 minutes. Thank you. So we'll just give people a few more seconds to come back. And then we're going to have Josh deliver his presentation on Carl Moyer Loan and Garden Incentives. So next slide, please.
Thanks, Ash.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Simmons, and I work in the Mobile Sources Control Division. This evening, I'll be briefly going over the Lawn and Garden program for Carl Moyer. At the end of the presentation, I'll provide some links to some additional information for Moyer, including the guidelines. Next slide. The first thing that I want to mention is that the air districts administer the Carl Moyer program and have the right to focus their funds on local source categories they feel will have the most impact in their area. This means that not every air district will have a local lawn and garden program, and those that do might have more stringent requirements than the Moyer guidelines. But generally, the eligibility is open to residents and businesses. The requirements are as follows. Scrap an existing combustion lawn and garden equipment and replace it with an equivalent electric version. At least 2 years of equipment ownership are required for the older baseline equipment. And for commercial applicants, we ask them to be California-based companies that own and operate the equipment in California. Next slide. Here are the incentive values for the Moyer Lawn and Garden program. A couple things I would like to note are that what's listed in the table are maximum values, the maximum available voucher amount. The eligible purchases include tools and as many batteries and or chargers as the applicant wishes, but the funding is capped at the values listed in the table. And on this slide, there are some useful links to further explore the information that I've just shared with you today. Those include the link to Moyer Chapter 9, which is the Lawn and Garden Voucher Program, And with that, I will hand the presentation over to Ash, who will queue up our next presenter.
Thank you. So next we have Walter Shen from the South Coast Air Quality Management District here today to discuss the lawn and garden program. I'll have it over to you, Walter.
Thanks, Ash, and thanks, Joshua. So ARB, appreciate you having South Coast AQMD here to speak on our program and to really broadcast the success and to really promote what it is that's going on in our region. So my name is Walter. As Ash alluded to, I'm the manager overseeing off-road incentives, including special projects such as the commercial and residential lawn and garden programs. I wanted to just really briefly touch upon, this lawn and garden program that Josh was covering. We are currently using Carl Moyer funding to implement our commercial lawn and garden program. We've been implementing this program since 2023. The demand has been heavy. It has been a very successful and a very popular program thus far. To date, we've implemented, close to 5 million in lawn and garden funds. We've exchanged close to 2,500 lawn and garden equipment. This is a newer program in that we are using a more streamlined voucher-based process for ease of processing to follow a more streamlined business process. In our previous implementation of lawn and garden program, it was more of a contract-based process, but aligning ourselves with the new lawn and garden Carl Moyer chapter. This voucher process has been very successful on our end in terms of implementation. We are partnering up with approximately 20 retailers within our region with multiple locations. And I bring that up because the retailers are very central to our process. And we depend on them and we train them before they enter into our lawn and garden program to really help and handhold the customer end to be able to help them apply for the vouchers, to really apply for the voucher discount onto their purchase price to see that immediate point of sale discount. And at the back end, they would apply for reimbursements for our staff's review, and we will reimburse them the funds. And as Josh had indicated earlier, or maybe not in detail, but you see that there are funding caps for the different kinds of lawn and garden equipment, but for our side, it's 85% discount or up to the funding caps that was shared with Josh's slide earlier. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's just an overview of our lawn and garden process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ash for any additional questions or any other items that you want me to highlight. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Walter. I might save Q&A for the Q&A portion next. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, for this slide, we received some questions. So this is how you find your air district. To find your air district, please navigate here. The website will be posted in the chat. In this website, you will find all the air districts listed, and you can find which air district your city belongs to. Next, we'll hear from Josh. Next slide, please.
Thanks again. This evening, I'll be filling in for Todd Sterling, who normally presents on the Core Pro Landscaper Update or Clean Off-Road equipment vouchers. So in 2021, the state legislature provided $30 million for California small business pro landscapers. The program opened in November of 2022 and it closed in October of 2023. The successful program provided vouchers to over 3,800 participants, and the core incentive program provided thousands of batteries and chargers to support thousands of zero-emission hand tools, walk-behind, and riding mowers. The program is unfortunately currently out of funding, and as of right now, we do not see any additional funding being added to this program.
Thanks, Josh. Next, we will hear from Jordan, who will give an update on our outreach. So you're muted, Jordan. You just need to unmute.
My name is Jordan Odom. I'm an Air Resources Technician too with CARB. I will give an update on CARB staff's outreach to landscapers to encourage them to participate in this work group and attend meetings such as this one. We initially mailed postcard invitations to landscapers who were listed as having employees in a database maintained by the Employment Development Department and advertised the work group by Gov Delivery notice to all subscribers to mobile source and small off-road engine lists. We worked with CARB's Office of the Ombudsperson, the Environmental Justice Blog, the California Landscape Contractors Association, and National Association of Landscape Professionals to get the word out to landscapers that we were forming this work group. The Office of the Ombudsperson provided information and flyers regarding the work group to numerous chambers of commerce and business federations, associations, panels, and alliances, including at in-person events. The American Green Zone Alliance also provided flyers and information regarding the work group at demonstration events for the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project. We have contacted more than 150 cities and counties in California to request business contact information for landscaper, gardening, tree trimmers, and lawn maintenance businesses who hold business licenses in those cities and counties. We also obtained a list of C27 licensed landscape contractors from the Contractors State License Board. We networked at several landscape expos and sought out dealers to pass our information on to the small businesses. The culmination of all this was a list of 25,000 addresses to send invites to landscapers to participate in our landscaper work group. We will continue contacting businesses licensed in cities and counties in California. We would also like to solicit your input on how to reach more landscaping businesses to invite them to participate in our landscaper work group. Next slide.
We are running a little bit earlier than we anticipated, so maybe we won't take our second 5-minute break. So maybe we'll go to next slide. So we would like to request your input on future work group topics. Please share them with us either through the chat, sharing by speaking, or you can email suggestions to us at landscaper@arb.ca.gov. If you receive a survey request from the Social Science Research Center at California State University, Fullerton, please respond. That survey is used to understand business operations of landscaping and yard care businesses within California. For more information about this project, please visit the website that will be posted in the chat. Next slide, please. We have listed a few contacts for the programs we discussed. If you have questions for us and don't get a chance to ask them at the meeting today, we're still going to have the Q&A, but please email us at soar@arb.ca.gov or landscaper@arb.ca.gov. Next slide. The next workgroup meeting will be held on August 28th, and now we'll take questions. Okay, I see a raised hand. Darren Tiffy, please go ahead and ask your question. Please give us your affiliation too. You can go ahead and unmute and then give us your name and affiliation and then ask your question, please.
I unmuted yet?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I had a couple friends that were supposed to be here, but I guess they didn't make it. That's what their email said. But one guy has a small landscaping business in South Tahoe, and during the winter he does snow work. Another friend of mine has the same thing in Truckee, and they've asked me. We looked through all the rules. I've been to the last meeting. We can't find anything that specifically says for or against buying equipment out of state and bringing it into California for use. And they keep asking me about that since they're 10 miles from Reno, 20 miles from Reno. Is there any specific rules against doing that kind of thing?
I'll take this question. Hi, Christopher Dilbeck, CARB here. So the rules, which are primarily, written with a manufacturer audience in mind, do require engines to be certified if they're going to be sold in California or leased or, introduced into commerce in California. So a person or dealer knowingly selling units to a user who's going to be bringing them into California could be violating the rules. And someone who's going to be using engines for business purposes could also be considered to be introducing the units into commerce because they would be using them for their business purposes. So that could also potentially be a violation of the rules if
because we saw
certified for California.
Okay, because we saw the part where it says it can't be brought in and sold, but the whole thing buying it out of state, bringing it in, it's all kind of a gray area that's talked around. There's never anything that actually says yes or no on it.
Right. So we do have some fact sheets that I think we posted. I can't recall off the top of my head if they address this specific topic, but yeah, again, sales, to users who are bringing them into California, the seller could be violating the rules. And then if someone's buying them out of state to use them for business purposes in the state, that could also be a violation of the rules.
All right, because I know that's probably a big question among a lot of people that live closer to the state lines, but it's something that we couldn't really ever find any specific yes or no on. So that's why I wanted to ask the questions.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
All right, thank you.
I just posted the 2 fact sheets on the chat. So I saw a question in the chat. I've got Danny Miller of OPE Service Technician. Are there any incentive programs for OPE dealers / service centers to purchase chargers and batteries to be used on the service and maintenance of zero emission equipment?
So Danny, I'll take a shot at this question. If I'm not answering the question you're asking, feel free to let us know. For dealers and service centers, I mean, there could be manufacturer incentives to their dealers that we wouldn't be privy to, and would not be a state program. That would be more of a manufacturer dealer thing. So manufacturers might have information about that, or potentially some dealers might have information about that. In terms of the CARB programs, I don't believe there are incentives for the dealers, but someone can correct me if I'm mistaken about that.
That's also my understanding.
Air districts. Okay, thanks, Josh. Air district representatives, if you're aware of something else, feel free to chime in as well.
Okay, and then I see a raised hand, Kristen Kessler. I'm gonna unmute you. And if you could say your name and your affiliation and your question, please.
Hi, I'm Kristen Kessler. I'm just a concerned citizen who's interested in this issue. My question is, are gas-powered leaf blowers still, is it still legal in California to purchase a gas-powered leaf blower?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kristen. This is a question we get quite a lot, actually. So you're not the only one asking the question. And again, these rules for small engines they do require certification and labeling of the engines to be sold in California. So stores, well, for dealers and other stores that sell this equipment, what they need to make sure they're doing is that any engines they're selling are certified and labeled. But there is no date by which certified engines need to be sold, and these rules do not require anyone to stop selling these or servicing them or using them. There are no requirements for owners of the equipment to stop using them or to stop purchasing them. However, there are some local rules, no state rules about this, but local rules in some cities and counties that do limit the time of day or the noise level, or in some cases prohibit the use of certain equipment types that use small engines.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. Let me look through the chat. I don't see any questions.
I did see that Danny Miller followed up saying he wasn't aware of any manufacturers that have programs for dealers. So thanks for the follow-up, Danny. So yeah, we can give another minute or two for more questions if there are any. Feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. Patricia, Andy, do you have any questions that came to you?
Oh, there's a question in the chat from Tony Chan. Will there be more funding added to the successful core program in the near future?
I can go ahead and take this one. As far as I understand, they don't see any funding being added to the program in the near future.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, you know, it would be up to the state legislature to allocate funding for that, which is, you know, elected officials, right? It would not be up to CARB.
And I see Gavin Humason. Last call, there was mention of a proposed 25K tax refund that was proposed. Is there any update on that?
I think that was one of the slides Jenna presented. Do we want to go
Yeah,
back to that?
I think that was the bill that was introduced, but we don't have any updates on it. We have seen that it was sent to the Ways and Means Committee.
So yeah, that would be up to the U.S. House of Representatives to move that forward. And we're not aware of any change in that.
Okay, next question is from Jackie Ishimaru Gashina. Has the variance been signed by EPA?
Short answer, not yet. So after CARB adopted the updates to the rules and they were approved at the state level, CARB submitted a request to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to authorize enforcement of the rules at the end of 2022, and US EPA has not yet published a decision on that request.
And we have another question from Gustavo Camberos. Will South Coast Air District be allowing new manufacturers to join the program?
Hi, Ash. Hey, Gustavo, thanks for that question. So initially, when we opened the program, we opened an RFP to solicit all the lawn and garden manufacturers to participate. And with that solicitation, we had multiple different manufacturers come into the fold, and their retailer network who we are collaborating with, right? So on and so forth. So that's a long-winded answer to this. Currently, we're not accepting new manufacturers, but we do anticipate that in the near future, we more than likely will open another solicitation, another RFP to solicit additional manufacturers as needed. Right now, I do not have a timeline, but be on the lookout. Please check in with that link that I sent you in the chat with any updates to any new RFPs for that. I hope that answers your question.
I guess we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes, see if anybody else has any questions.
Okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands or additional questions in the chat. So I want to thank everyone for attending the meeting today and for participating in the meeting. Thank you to the representatives from the air districts for joining us, and to the representatives from the utilities as well for joining us for the meeting and helping with the presentation. Thank you to all the attendees for participating in the meeting and for your questions. And we'll close the meeting at this time. And well, we'll hope to see all of you again for our next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.